Have you ever loved someone so much that the fear of losing them started to change who you were? Not overnight, not with loud alarms, but slowly, quietly. You stopped speaking your truth to avoid conflict. You held your breath every time they pulled away. And at some point, without even realizing it, your love turned into something else. Not devotion, but dependency. Not connection, but control. There's a man I once knew. Let's call him Daniel. He was strong, thoughtful, someone people leaned on, until he fell in love. And then, he started to disappear. Not from the outside, but from himself. He stopped going to the gym, canceled nights out with friends, rewrote his dreams so they could fit better inside hers. Not because she asked him to, but because he thought that's what love required. That to keep her close, he had to shrink. But here's the truth. The more he gave up pieces of himself, the more distant she became. Because the love he offered, though deep, came wrapped in anxiety, in pressure, in silent fear. And eventually, it broke. Now, what if Daniel had known what the ancient Stoics knew? What if, instead of gripping so tightly, he had learned to love with open hands, to give without fear, to speak without needing control, to stand in his own center, even while opening his heart? That is the essence of Stoic Romance. You see, Stoicism isn't about being cold or detached or emotionally shut down. It's not about hiding your heart behind armor. It's about loving with clarity, choosing presence over possession, intention over impulse. It's about knowing that real love never demands the sacrifice of your peace. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." What if we applied that to our relationships, to how we speak to our partners, to how we respond to rejection, to how we hold love, not as a trophy or a need, but as a gift we offer freely? In this video, we're going to explore what that kind of love looks like. Not fantasy, not attachment dressed up as devotion, but love that's rooted, self-respecting, and profoundly powerful. So if you've ever felt torn between caring and clinging, if you've ever lost yourself in someone else, or if you simply want to love better, wiser, deeper, without the fear of breaking, then stay with me. Because what you're about to discover could change not just your relationship, but the way you carry your heart through this life. And if this message already stirs something in you, I invite you to like this video, subscribe to Stoic now, and share it with someone who's learning how to love without losing themselves. Have you ever loved someone so much that the fear of losing them started to change who you were? Not overnight, not with loud alarms, but slowly, quietly. You stopped speaking your truth to avoid conflict. You held your breath every time they pulled away. And at some point, without even realizing it, your love turned into something else. Not devotion, but dependency. Not connection, but control. There's a man I once knew. Let's call him Daniel. He was strong, thoughtful, someone people leaned on, until he fell in love. And then, he started to disappear. Not from the outside, but from himself. He stopped going to the gym, canceled nights out with friends, rewrote his dreams so they could fit better inside hers. Not because she asked him to, but because he thought that's what love required. That to keep her close, he had to shrink. But here's the truth. The more he gave up pieces of himself, the more distant she became. Because the love he offered, though deep, came wrapped in anxiety, in pressure, in silent fear. And eventually, it broke. Now, what if Daniel had known what the ancient Stoics knew? What if, instead of gripping so tightly, he had learned to love with open hands, to give without fear, to speak without needing control, to stand in his own center, even while opening his heart? That is the essence of Stoic Romance. You see, Stoicism isn't about being cold or detached or emotionally shut down. It's not about hiding your heart behind armor. It's about loving with clarity, choosing presence over possession, intention over impulse. It's about knowing that real love never demands the sacrifice of your peace. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." What if we applied that to our relationships, to how we speak to our partners, to how we respond to rejection, to how we hold love, not as a trophy or a need, but as a gift we offer freely? In this video, we're going to explore what that kind of love looks like. Not fantasy, not attachment dressed up as devotion, but love that's rooted, self-respecting, and profoundly powerful. So if you've ever felt torn between caring and clinging, If you've ever lost yourself in someone else, or if you simply want to love better, wiser, deeper, without the fear of breaking, then stay with me. Because what you're about to discover could change not just your relationship, but the way you carry your heart through this life. And if this message already stirs something in you, I invite you to like this video, subscribe to Stoic now, and share it with someone who's learning how to love without losing themselves. Number 1. Love without attachment. Picture a bird resting gently in the palm of your hand. It's beautiful, vibrant, alive. You admire its freedom, its soft feathers, the way it trusts you enough to stay. But then, fear creeps in. What if it flies away? And before you know it, your fingers close tighter, not to hurt it, but to hold it, to protect it. And yet, in that very moment, its wings are crushed, not by hate, but by fear disguised as love. This is what happens in so many of our relationships. We confuse love with control. We confuse connection with ownership. We say, "You're mine," and think it's a compliment. But what we really mean, without knowing, is don't leave, don't change, don't grow beyond me. But true love, as the Stoics taught, is never about possession. It's about appreciation without attachment, giving without needing to keep, being close without trying to cage. Epictetus said, "Don't tie your happiness to what you cannot control." And nothing is more beyond our control than the hearts of other people. You can't force someone to love you back. You can't guarantee they'll stay or be the same tomorrow as they are today. Love, by its very nature, is uncertain. And the moment you try to make it permanent, predictable, or controllable, you've stepped outside of love and into fear. It's not easy, especially when you've poured yourself into someone, when they feel like home, when the idea of losing them feels like losing a part of yourself. But here's the deeper truth. You are not incomplete without them. You are not broken without their attention. And the moment you believe that love must be held tightly to be real is the moment you begin to strangle both yourself and the relationship. Let me tell you about Sarah and Michael. Michael loved Sarah deeply. She was bright, spontaneous, full of life. But when she received a job offer across the country, something shifted in him. He became quiet, distant, anxious. He started asking questions like, "Will you even think about me once you're gone?" Or, "Why do you have to go?" Sarah wasn't leaving him. She was chasing a dream. But to Michael, her freedom felt like a threat. Instead of celebrating her success, he saw it as abandonment. Not because she did anything wrong, but because he had built his happiness around her staying. And that's the trap. When your peace depends on someone else's presence, your love becomes a prison. You're no longer loving them, you're needing them. And need, no matter how romantic it sounds, is a seed of resentment waiting to grow. The Stoics remind us, if you love someone, love them fully, yes, but never forget that they are not yours. They are their own soul, their own story. And the moment you accept that, something powerful happens. You stop trying to hold them, and instead, you start holding space for them to become who they are meant to be. That's real love. That's Stoic romance. It's standing beside someone with an open hand, not a closed fist. It's watching them grow and cheering them on, even if that growth takes them in a direction that doesn't include you. It's replacing "I need you" with "I appreciate you," and "Don't leave me" with "Wherever you go, I wish you peace." Now, does this mean you stop caring? That you detach so much that nothing matters? Absolutely not. The Stoic way isn't about apathy. It's about strength. It's about understanding that your value, your worth, your peace is not dependent on another person's actions. It's rooted in how you show up, how you give, how you release. When you love this way, you become magnetic. Not because you're trying to be, but because your calmness is rare. Your presence doesn't pressure. Your affection doesn't smother. And people feel safe around that energy. They return to it, not because they have to, but because they want to. This is a love that honors freedom, that says, even if you walk away, I will not crumble. I may grieve, I may ache, but I will not collapse. Because I was whole before you, and I will be whole after. To love someone and let them go if needed, that is not weakness. That is sacred strength. And here's what happens when you live this truth. Your relationships become lighter, more authentic. There's no tension in every conversation, no anxiety behind every delay in response. You begin to enjoy the person for who they are, not what they provide. And in that space, love breathes, trust deepens, and intimacy thrives. So if you're holding someone too tightly right now, pause. Breathe. Loosen your grip. Ask yourself, am I loving them? Or am I trying to own them? Because the difference will define your peace. Epictetus whispered a truth that echoes through time. He is free who lives as he wishes to live. He is free who is master of himself. And when you master the art of loving without possession, you free not just the one you love. You free yourself. Number 2, emotional responsibility. There's a moment in every relationship, quiet, fleeting, when something is said that lands wrong. A joke that cuts too deep. A silence that lingers too long. And in that split second, your mind ignites. How could they say that? They don't care about me. They should have known better. Your chest tightens. Your voice rises. Your thoughts scatter. And suddenly, you're not responding, you're reacting. But what if that moment wasn't about them? What if it was about you? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. And in the arena of love, that strength is everything. Because here's the truth we rarely want to admit. Most of what we feel in relationships doesn't come from the other person. It comes from our own expectations, from our own interpretations, from the silent stories we've written in our heads about how love is supposed to look. We think, they ignored my message, they must be mad at me. We believe, if they truly cared, they wouldn't act that way. We assume, if I feel this hurt, it must be their fault. But none of that is fact. It's judgment. It's meaning we've assigned to events we cannot control. And the Stoics, perhaps more than anyone, warned us of the danger in that. Take Julian, for example. He'd been dating Elena for 8 months. She was kind, honest, and independent. But one night, after a long day, she canceled plans last minute. No explanation, just, "I need space." Julian spiraled. He replayed every recent conversation, searching for signs. He convinced himself she was losing interest, that maybe she met someone else, that he must have done something wrong. But here's the truth. Elena just had a rough week. She needed silence, not separation. And by the next morning, she explained everything. But by then, Julian had already accused, withdrawn, and created distance that didn't need to exist. His pain was real, but its source? Not her silence. His story about her silence. You see, Stoicism doesn't ask us to deny our emotions. It asks us to understand their origins. It teaches us that between what happens and how we feel about it, there is space. And in that space lies our power. The power to pause. The power to question. The power to respond rather than explode. When Marcus said, "You have power over your mind," he didn't mean to suppress what you feel. He meant to own it. To look at anger and ask, where is this really coming from? To feel jealousy and say, what fear is this pointing to? To sit with insecurity and realize, this isn't about them. This is about something unhealed in me. Emotional responsibility isn't blame. It's freedom. It's the difference between reacting like a storm and responding like a mountain. It's the quiet discipline of catching your thoughts before they become accusations. Of listening to understand, not to defend. Of choosing truth over narrative. It means saying, yes, I feel hurt, but is this about what they did or what I expected? It means replacing "she made me feel this way" with "I'm feeling this way because of how I interpreted what happened." And that change, it's everything. Because once you stop handing your emotional state to someone else, you reclaim your peace. You stop being a victim of every word, every tone, every mood swing. You begin to anchor your sense of self in something unshakable, your own awareness. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And how often is that true in love? How many arguments were born from assumptions? How many breakups rooted in misinterpretation? How many nights ruined by overthinking instead of honest communication? This isn't about becoming numb. It's about becoming clear. About honoring your emotions without letting them hijack your mind. So the next time you're triggered, pause. Before you lash out. Before you retreat. Before you let the story take over. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling? Is there another way to see this? Am I responding from clarity or from fear? This simple practice, this quiet reflection, can save your peace, your relationship, your dignity. It won't always be easy. Your ego will resist. Your pride will flare. But every time you choose awareness over assumption, you train your heart in strength. You become not a prisoner of love, but a guardian of it. Because at the end of the day, no one else is responsible for how you feel. That is your sacred ground, your mind, your meaning, your response. And when you master that, when you stop trying to control others and start mastering yourself, you become unshakable. That is Stoic love. Not fragile, not reactive, but steady. Now, let's explore how we speak in love. Not just honestly, but honorably. Number 3, speak truth without cruelty. There's a kind of silence in relationships that doesn't bring peace. It brings pressure. It fills the room with what's unsaid, with held-back truths, with quiet resentment. And slowly, it starts to rot the roots of connection. But on the other end, there's another kind of honesty. Sharp, unfiltered, delivered without care. I'm just being real, we say. But often, what we call truth is just disguised cruelty. A lashing out dressed up as clarity. So where is the balance? Between silence that suffocates and speech that wounds? Seneca gave us a guide. He wrote, "A wise man is content with himself, but not indifferent to others." To be stoic in love doesn't mean withholding your truth, but it does mean being aware of how your words land. Because wisdom without compassion is still a weapon. Imagine this. You're sitting across from someone you love. Something's been building inside you. A frustration, a disappointment. You want to speak it, but how? The untrained response might be, "You never listen to me. I feel like I'm not even here to you." But a stoic heart would pause, would translate emotion into clarity, would say instead, "When I speak and feel unheard, I begin to shut down. I need space where I can feel received." Notice the difference? One attacks, the other reveals. Truth in love isn't about pointing fingers. It's about opening windows. It's not about winning. It's about being real while remaining kind. This was something Olivia had to learn the hard way. She was in a long-term relationship with someone she adored. But over time, small things built up. Lack of support, missed plans, dismissive tones. She kept it inside. "I don't want to seem dramatic," she told herself. So she smiled, nodded, kept the peace. Until one night, she exploded. Everything came out at once. Messy, angry, unfiltered. And though her words were rooted in truth, the delivery turned them into daggers. Her partner didn't hear her pain, only her rage. And instead of closeness, they drifted further apart. What if Olivia had spoken sooner? Softer? With strength, yes, but not fury? Stoic love invites us to speak often, but not harshly. To let honesty flow regularly, gently, before it festers. To see communication not as confrontation, but as care. Epictetus reminded us, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." And when it comes to love, that listening includes the self. What am I truly feeling? What needs to be expressed? Not to punish, but to be understood. It's easy to fall into the trap of silence. To think we're being good by keeping our feelings in. But repression is not peace. And unchecked silence grows into distance. The kind of distance that no amount of date nights can repair. So how do we speak truth without cruelty? We start by owning our language. By using I instead of you. By describing, not accusing. By revealing how we feel, not prescribing how they should be. Instead of, "You make me feel unloved." Try. "When this happens, I begin to feel disconnected." Instead of, "You never show up for me." Try. "I feel supported when we check in more often." That matters to me. This isn't about being overly cautious. It's about being deeply conscious. Your words are instruments. They can either build bridges or burn them. And when you're speaking to someone you love, what's more sacred than the way you hold their heart in your hands, even in disagreement? Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is tell the truth. But the highest form of love is telling that truth with grace. Not sugar-coated, not performative, but calm, clear, rooted in self-awareness, not self-righteousness. You might not always be understood. You might not always get the perfect response. But when you speak with integrity, you give your heart the dignity of being seen, and you give your partner the chance to meet you in that space. And if they don't, you walk away knowing you stayed true, not just to your feelings, but to your values. The Stoics were never afraid of truth, but they respected its power. They knew that truth given without care can become cruelty, and care given without truth can become cowardice. So we walk the line. We speak. We soften. We stand tall, but not hard. Because in the end, It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. And when love is spoken from stillness, not storm, it resonates deeper. It stays. It heals. To love wisely is to tell the truth with tenderness. To not let fear silence you, but also not let ego turn your truth into a blade. And when you master this balance, your relationships become richer, cleaner, kinder. Not perfect, but honest. And that's where real connection begins. Number 4, the art of presence in love. It's a quiet evening. The two of you sit on the couch. The television hums softly in the background. You're together, but are you truly with each other? Your eyes glance at your phone. Their fingers scroll. Words are few. Mine's elsewhere. And yet, hours pass in each other's presence, and not a single moment of connection is truly shared. This is the quiet erosion of intimacy, not through loud fights or betrayal, but through the subtle absence of presence. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. You can do it if you try." And in love, that practice is more urgent than ever. To be present with someone doesn't just mean to be physically near. It means to see them, to feel with them, to let go of the swirling mind, the worries, the comparisons, the regrets, and enter the now, fully. In our hyper-connected world, this has become a rare art. We chase novelty. We live in the past, dissecting old wounds. We reach for the future, planning how love should unfold. But in doing so, we overlook the heartbeat right in front of us. James learned this the hard way. He was in a committed relationship with Mia, bright, curious, endlessly passionate. She would speak about her day, her dreams, the small details that made her eyes light up. But James was always half there, listening, but only enough to respond. Thinking of work, his to-do list, the next big move. And then one day, she stopped sharing. Not because she didn't care, but because she no longer felt received. Her words floated into an empty space. Her presence, unnoticed. She became quiet, distant. And James, confused, asked, "Why are you pulling away?" She looked at him and said, "You're always around, but you're never really here." That truth hit harder than any argument. Presence isn't flashy. It doesn't come with fireworks. But it's the most powerful form of love. When you look into your partner's eyes and actually see them, not the idea of them, not your expectations, but them, as they are, now. That is intimacy. That is love made real. The Stoics knew the mind's tendency to wander, to ruminate, to worry. But they also taught that mastery begins with bringing the mind back, again and again, to what is right in front of you. When you sit across from the person you love, can you feel the moment? Can you slow your breath enough to hear theirs? Can you listen, not just to the words, but to the silence between them? Presence means putting down the phone, yes. But more than that, it means putting down the internal noise. It means stepping out of the mental monologue that says, "How does this affect me?" and stepping into, "What is this person truly feeling right now?" It's not easy, especially when life demands so much. But presence is not a matter of time, it's a matter of attention. And when you give that, even in short bursts, undistracted, full-hearted, you give something rare and irreplaceable. A moment that feels eternal. Think of the last time someone looked at you and listened, not just nodded, but really heard you. The feeling it gave you, the grounding, the warmth, the sense of being seen. That is what you offer when you bring your full self to a moment. To love as a Stoic is to love consciously. To know that each interaction is fleeting. That this person you love may not be there forever. That nothing is promised. And in that awareness, not in fear, but in reverence, you show up more deeply. Instead of, "I'll say I love you later," you say it now. Instead of half listening, you lean in. Instead of zoning out, you soften in. You become the safe space, the eye of the storm, the moment of peace in a world that constantly pulls us away. Because one day, all that will remain of this love is memory. And the quality of those memories, their texture, their warmth, depends on the presence you give today. Epictetus reminds us, how long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? I would ask, how long will you wait before you give the best of yourself to the one beside you? The one who wants to be felt, not just touched, heard, not just answered, loved, not just labeled. Your presence is your power, not what you buy or promise or even say. It is how deeply you show up. So next time you sit beside them, really sit. Look up, listen fully, let the moment breathe. Because love, when when stripped of all else, is this: attention. Undivided, undistracted, undeniable. And when you give that, nothing else is needed. Number 5. Letting go with grace. There is a silence that follows the end of love. Not the explosive kind that screams and slams doors, but the soft, aching one that arrives when everything has already been said and still nothing can be saved. And in that silence, we often reach for one final grasp, one more text, one last plea. Not because we don't understand, it's because we do. We sense the ending, and we fear what it says about us, about our worth, about whether we were ever truly loved at all. But the Stoics would ask, is your value so fragile that it depends on someone else's decision to stay? Marcus Aurelius reminds us, loss is nothing else but change. And though heartbreak can feel like a death, it is not destruction. It is transition, the turning of one chapter into another. To let go with dignity doesn't mean you didn't care. It doesn't mean you weren't hurt. It means you honor what was, without clinging to what no longer is. Letting go is not weakness. It is one of the strongest acts of self-respect there is. Think of Nathan. After 4 years in a deeply committed relationship, his partner chose to walk away. No betrayal, no big betrayal, just a quiet shift. Needs changed. Paths diverged. She said she still cared, but she wasn't in it anymore. Nathan was devastated. The instinctive reaction surged, to beg, to convince, to bargain. But somewhere in the stillness of his despair, he remembered something he had once read from Epictetus. When someone doesn't value you, walk away and let them miss the stability of your silence. And so he did, not out of coldness, but out of clarity. He cried. He journaled. He walked for hours in the cold. But he did not chase. He did not beg to be loved back into relevance. He released, with reverence, because he understood something many never do, that staying where you're no longer wanted does not prove love, it erodes it. Letting go is not about giving up. It's about giving yourself back. The Stoic path is not about emotional detachment. It's about emotional discernment, about knowing when your energy is being honored and when it's being drained. Too many people stay too long, out of fear, out of memory, out of the illusion that love must always be fought for. But sometimes, the most sacred fight is the one where you choose to walk away with grace, instead of staying out of desperation. To let go with dignity means you don't destroy what was. You don't tarnish the past to justify the exit. You allow the story to be what it was, flawed, beautiful, real. And then, you place it down gently, like a well-read book, not to be erased, but to be remembered. You accept that this person was a chapter, not your whole book. You stop asking why they didn't choose you, and start choosing yourself. You stop trying to control the ending, and start writing a new beginning. It's not easy. Some mornings you'll ache. Some nights you'll reach for a ghost. But with each passing day, you'll grow quieter inside. Not because the pain disappears, but because you stop resisting it. You allow it to move through you. And in that surrender, you become stronger. Because the one thing no one can take from you is how you let go. Did you cling? Did you curse? Did you crumble? Or did you rise, slowly, maybe painfully, but with your soul intact? Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And we waste so much time trying to hold on to what no longer holds us. But when you release with dignity, you reclaim that time, that energy, that peace. You become your own closure. So if you're in that place, on the edge of ending, ask yourself, is holding on building me or breaking me? And if the answer is the latter, then walk. Not in bitterness, but in boldness. Not because you stopped loving them, but because you started loving you. And that love, the one you give back to yourself after someone else no longer does, that is sacred. That is stoic. That is freedom. Love doesn't grow from a grand gesture or a single vow. It grows from daily presence. And the kind of love we've been speaking of, clear, respectful, free, is not a philosophy you hear once and carry forever. It's a discipline, a garden that needs daily tending. So, how do we practice Stoic love every single day? Start each morning with one small question. What can I not control today? Write it down. Reflect on it. Remind yourself that your partner's mood, their reaction, their pace, these are not yours to own. What is yours is how you respond, how you show up, how you lead with patience instead of pressure, with steadiness instead of sensitivity. When you train your mind to release control, love becomes lighter. Not careless, but fearless. And at night, ask yourself, did I love in alignment with my values today? Not, did they understand me? Not, was I validated? But, did I stay true to what kind of lover I want to be? Because the measure of love isn't what we get, it's what we give with integrity. Were you kind when it was hard? Were you honest when it mattered? Did you listen even when your ego wanted to speak? These reflections turn affection into wisdom. They build you into a partner who is calm without being distant, strong without being rigid, loving without being weak. And throughout your day, practice one subtle but powerful habit. When you feel the urge to react, pause. 3 seconds. Breathe. Feel the fire rise. Then let it settle. Choose your response, not based on ego, but on principle. Because that's where Stoic love lives, not in passion alone, but in pause. Not in being right, but in being real. When you make this your rhythm, reflection in the morning, integrity during the day, review at night, you're not just practicing love, you're embodying it. Underscore. Sunrise closing summary plus invitation. We began this journey with a story, a man losing himself in love, a man who meant well, but loved from fear, not freedom. And now, we've walked through 5 powerful lessons that the Stoics, the ancient minds of stillness and strength, left behind for us. You've learned that love is not possession. It's not holding someone tight enough that they stay. It's standing beside them and letting them choose you every day freely. You've seen that your emotions are yours, that no one makes you feel anything. You choose your interpretation, your meaning, your response. And in that choice, you find your power. You've learned that truth must be spoken, but with care. That honesty without cruelty is possible. That love doesn't demand silence or explosions, but calm, steady revelation. You've remembered the gift of presence. That every second you offer your full self to another is sacred. That nothing builds intimacy more than being fully, quietly there. And finally, you've discovered that even the endings of love are not failures, they're transformations. And the way you let go may be the most beautiful proof of how you loved. So what now? Practice. Love not with desperation, but with devotion. Not with attachment, but with awareness. Not by losing yourself, but by returning to yourself again and again, so that every time you give love, it's whole. And if this message stirred something in you, something tender, something true, I invite you to let it ripple outward. Like this video, if it helped clarify something for your heart. Subscribe to Stoic now, if this is the kind of wisdom your soul is hungry for. And share your story in the comments. Which part of this touched you? What lesson do you want to live starting today? Remember this. To love wisely is to let go without hate and hold without fear. And I leave you with a final question. Not to answer now, but to carry with you. How do you love in a way that lets you remain yourself? Until next time, may your love be clear, your mind be calm,